Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 572 of the most terrific amateur podcast, true, but also amateur radio podcast on the internet. This is Linux in the Ham Shack, and you have tuned in to a Weekender episode, 126th edition of the Weekender. So thanks for being here. We appreciate it. And before we find out what our mystery topic is for the evening, we will go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
All right, so we are actually all here, as tends to happen for the Weekenders. So very good on that. And I have the picker wheel loaded up with topics and queued up and ready to spin. And if I hold my nose just right, we may actually hear it. So it'll sound like crap, but we'll hear it. Here we go. Well, you know, it didn't even sound like crap.
No, it sounded good.
All right, and the topic it has chosen is, what are your browser extensions and why? This was obviously a topic submitted by a listener, and I will have to go back and find out who that listener was, because we said something about sending merch to people whose topics were chosen. So I will find out who sent us that, and they will get something. But in the meantime, now we have to figure out what our browser extensions are and why.
What are extensions?
What are, yeah. I don't use that dang Fangle stuff. Yeah. Actually, I have to fire up Chrome because all of my extensions are in Chrome, and I'm using Safari right now. So let's see. Let me find my list of extensions. Cheryl's like, what's an extension? Do you have any extensions in your browser?
I don't think so. Which I'm in Windows right now.
Well, it doesn't matter. Browsers run in all operating systems.
Well, no, I know, but yeah, the Windows side of my computer is basically stripped down to podcast level, period. And I don't know if I have any extensions in Linux or not. Okay, I probably do, but
you can go to setting. If you're using Chrome, you can go into settings and extensions, and it will tell you if you're using any extensions. Right. I actually have quite a few. Some of these I don't recall installing.
That seems safe. That's always a good start. I don't remember any of these.
No, I remember most of them. There's just some that I'm like, I don't know. But anyway, I can go down through mine here because there's also a why component to this. Why do you have them? So let me hit some of these. The first one that's on my list up here at the top is Bitmoji. And it's kind of obvious why I have that one, just so I can have Bitmojis. So
in the browser?
Yeah. There's a Chrome extension for Bitmoji. That's how I actually generate the little icons I use on Discord. So I don't know how you
on my phone.
Oh, you did yours on your phone. Fair enough. But yeah, so I have that in Chrome. The next one on down here is uBlock Origin, which is an ad blocker. So pretty safe to say what the reason for that is. I have one Authenticator, which is the Google Authenticator plugin, so you can see what your two-factor authentication keys are. So that's why I have that. I have Awesome Screen Recorder and Screensaver. The obvious reason for that is being screen captures and screen grabs. Let's see, what else do I have down here? Bitwarden, which is a password locker. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Cisco WebEx extension. I think we all know what that's for when people haven't bothered to upgrade to Teams and still use WebEx. Let's see, GNOME Shell Integration 12. I have no idea why I have that installed. I don't know if it actually allows me to use a GNOME shell inside the browser. It may, but it is there. Google Docs offline, so you can save your Google Docs and reference them offline. Pretty straightforward. Google Keep Chrome extension for using Keep, because Cheryl and I use Keep to keep up with lists, to-do lists, and things like that. So have that for Google Chrome. Jitsi meetings. That was back when I thought we were trying to find some other way to record the show, and we thought we might use something like the open source messenger Jitsi, because it can do recording and all that stuff, but pretty sure I don't use it. MainWP browser extension. MainWP is a site manager for WordPress, and that's a work thing, so that's why I have that. Plasma integration, which apparently has something to do with KDE Plasma. Obviously, I'm on macOS right now, so I have no idea why I would use that. On macOS, I wouldn't. Of course, these are all shared wherever I use Chrome. But actually on Linux with my KDE desktops, I don't even know what it does. So, whatever.
Probably controls, manages like notifications and stuff or something like that.
Yeah, probably. And the last one I have is the only one that's kind of even remotely interesting, is called Stylus. And what it does is it does front-end formatting of websites. You can force a site to use your own custom CSS, for example, regardless of what the site actually looks like. I did this because a lot of the sites I use don't have styling options within them or don't have themes that are configurable. So I use Stylus to alter the way they look. And what's nice about it is there's actually a repo of Stylus configuration. So if you look for a particular web application, there is probably somebody who has created a custom theme for it. And if you're using Google to render those websites, it will make it look like you want. This primarily is to give me dark themes for things that don't have dark themes, but it's also to prettify some other sites as well. So that's all that's in mine. Who wants to go next?
Mine's pretty simple. Mine has, in Windows anyway, has Rakuten.
Oh, Rakuten, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and Google Docs offline. So.
Wow.
Ooh,
all kinds of crap, yeah.
Yeah, well, again, this is Windows, so, yeah, whatever.
It says uses dash to dock. What's that?
That's a user extension inside of GNOME. That's not a
browser extension.
Not a browser. Is it specifically browser extensions, or is this extensions?
It was browser extensions. That was what it was worded as, browser. Yep.
Yeah. Dash to dock would be a GNOME extension. All right. Well, of the two browsers I use Chrome and I use Brave. Brave is for just my generic browsing and stuff like that. And they both share Chrome extensions, So they both go to the Chrome Web Store for extensions. So on the Brave browser, I use just Dark Reader and Stylish as well, for the same reasons. Dark Reader to turn every website dark, and then Stylish to do custom CSS on sites, especially Hacker News. I like the custom CSS for Hacker News to give it a nice, pretty look, because even in dark mode, it kind of looks like, ass. In Chrome, let's see, Chrome, I have the generic ones, the Google Docs offline, Google Voice, Jitsi meetings, obviously for the same reason, because we were going to use that at one time. Google Keep, because I use that pretty much all the time as well. Chrome Remote Desktop to work on my father's computer generally. Although we've switched, we're not using Chrome Remote Desktop anymore. Or am I? I think we are. I haven't had to fix it in a while, so I think the last time I did it, I was using Chrome Remote Desktop to fix his Chromebook. And then I have DuckDuckGo Privacy Essentials on mine, so I don't have the uBlock Origin or other ad blockers. I just use the DuckDuckGo, and then if I'm going to someplace somewhat sketchy, I use Brave for that. And I don't really care what goes on that browser, because nothing I do on that browser is authenticated or has anything related to me. So that's actually where I pick up Hacker News, because I can have the reader pop up for the speed reader on all the sites that it picks up links for and stuff like that. So I don't have to deal with a lot of junk ads and stuff like that inside of the feed readers. or the speed reader. Sorry, I keep calling it a feed reader. And let's see. I'm just checking my other computer to make sure it's the same. That one is the same for Chrome, and since this one's Brave, what do I have on this one? I have no extensions on this Brave browser on my other computer sitting here, so it's not synced or anything like that. So yeah, I'm not big on extensions. They're kind of cool for some purposes, and especially like stylish and dark reader. I kind of like those for a specific browser, but I wouldn't want those to have access even in a sandbox to every single site I go to when I'm dealing with authenticated sessions and stuff like that. and then my work computers probably have no extensions except for possibly editing ones for websites. What's the Vue? There's a Vue extension that I use for Vue websites and a React extension for working on React sites. Just a toolkit to help you out while you're testing stuff in the front end.
All right, very good. Yeah, so I guess not particularly exciting for our Chrome extensions. I will say that on Reddit in r/Chrome, there are a few threads with like top lists of Chrome extensions. So if you want to look and see if there's anything that might be handy for you, you could check that out. And I assume it would be the same for other browsers that aren't based on the Chrome engine, like Brave, for example, because that's just Chrome too. Well, there's another one. There's another popular one that's also based on Chrome. Not Chromium, because that's just the open source version of Chrome. But I think there's another one. And then like all the rest of them are based on the Mozilla engine, right? They're all Firefox, basically. So, because I used a browser called Pale Moon for a little while. I think I may have mentioned this on the show, which was handy for a little while because it allowed you to connect to sites that only supported TLS 1.0 encryption, which is a thing that should be dead long ago. But since work still had a couple of sites that used it, I needed to have Pale Moon to support it because you had to go back to some incredibly legacy version of Firefox to get it to work. I think it was like a 32 extended service release or 32 ESR or something like that to get Firefox to do it, and that was getting harder and harder to maintain. And eventually I managed to fix the site so it supported a more secure security algorithm. So I no longer have to use Pale Moon, but if that comes up for anybody, there's a thing. Not specifically extension related, but a browser with for me, a single use. So anybody else want to in the peanut gallery want to chime in on browser extensions that maybe everybody should know about? Because we're just not extension gurus.
Apparently not.
I use what I needs. That's it. There's probably something out there that I don't know I need.
Yeah, I think like the ad block things directly in the browser, I generally don't worry about because I use DNS to handle that. And I mean, if you have a Pi-hole, you can also kill a lot of that stuff. Ad blocks, ad stuff with Pi-hole. So I took all that off when I started using DNS over HTTPS or whatever they call that.
Yeah, that's probably something I need to do. Set up. I don't know how effective it would be. I'd probably just have to forward all DNS queries from the router to something that would properly filter that. But
Darren. Oh, sorry, I was answering Darren. Yeah, Darren, I did mention I use the DuckDuckGo privacy thing just because I use DuckDuckGo as my main browser or main search engine generally.
Steve says he just avoids sites with excessive ads. Well, how do you know that without bringing the site up? Even the Linux in the Ham Shack site has ads, and everybody should be clicking on those. Because we're like,
for sure,
we're so close to getting a disbursement from AdSense. If people would just click on those damn links, we could actually get some money. But their uBlock origin actually blocks them even for me. So too many ads that annoy me, I exit the page. Yeah, fair enough. Kind of like the world we live in. So, all right. Well, if anybody thinks of anything as the show goes on here, feel free to put it out there. But honestly, there's just no more. I don't have. Let me see. Let me look at Safari. If there's anything in Safari, I didn't put it there. So I'm kind of curious if it even has extensions. I'm kind of curious where I would even find extensions. Yeah, I guess they just don't have extensions.
Yeah, I thought at one point they were kind of poo-pooing on extensions anyway, just because of the security aspect of them.
Yeah, the implications, because you never know. Unless you're actually going to vet the code, yeah, it can be problematic for sure. Yeah, I didn't even see a place to look for extensions inside of Safari. So I'm going to assume they just don't have them. Oh, wait, there's a thing that says Safari extensions. Never mind, I was wrong. Let's see. You open it up, and the first thing that pops up is the best Safari extensions. Let's see what's on this list here. Top free apps: AdBlock for Safari, MK Player, which is an MKV and media player, Smart Play for Safari, so you can watch Netflix, YouTube, and stuff like that. It's probably a wrapper around some of those back-end video sites. Pinterest. Who cares about Pinterest? Grammarly. I think I use Grammarly on my phone as the keyboard or extension for it. So you didn't talk about it, extensions for your phone. And the Capital One shopping extension, I bet they didn't pay for that.
I'm pretty sure my Linux has Capital One along with the Rakuten and blah 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 blah. So
yeah, it's funny
because I know to pop up and say, you have $4.47 available to spend on your Capital One card, and your bonus money or whatever. So.
Well, you're always up my ass about using Rakuten, but you don't use it either. So
yes, I do. I just got a check.
When did you get a check? I get the mail most of the time, and I have not seen a check for Rakuten for quite some time.
There was something that came in my email the other day that said there was a check on the way.
Oh, it's on the way. So for like a whole $7.12?
Probably. Amazon doesn't accept it. Where does 90% of our stuff come from? Amazon.
Yeah, of course. But,
yeah.
All right. Anyway, enough about that. If anybody wants to chime in as we go along with the rest of the show, feel free, and we will discuss more browser extensions if you want. And I'll probably throw a link into the show notes of a couple of different places to find extensions for different browsers if anybody wants to see if anything might be useful to them. Although I think for most people, when they use the internet, they're using a browser, and if there's something they need that requires an extension, they probably already have it. But, is what it is. So anyway, that brings us down to the hedonism, the stuff where everything gets good and we enjoy life and we have wine, women, song, men, if that's your thing, whatever. And we always start that off with Cheryl so she can talk to us about some food. And I guess food's going in a slight tangent for us nowadays because we're trying to cut out gluten. Cheryl is definitely trying to cut out gluten. I'm trying to cut out gluten as well, by proxy. So this doesn't look gluten-free, though.
No, this is definitely not gluten-free.
Oh, you said you thought you were
No, what I said is I keep coming across recipes for cottage cheese.
Okay.
Using cottage cheese for pancakes, yeah.
Right.
Instead of using flour and stuff. And I'm tempted to try it since I eat pancakes like once a year. So
yeah, that'd be interesting, actually. And I will say that maybe as we go along, you can do some gluten-free stuff just to help people who have that problem. Because I know that we have discovered immediately that gluten-free pasta is actually just fine.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the Barilla gluten-free pasta is very, very tasty. So when the whole gluten-free thing started, everybody's like, "Oh, it tastes like wet cardboard." But they're getting better. So the bread, the Canyon River bread that I'm getting isn't bad.
Yeah, it's a little strange. It's like a bread made with different grains, which of course it is, and it tastes fine. It's just one of those things where you have to like turn your brain off and assume that you've never eaten bread before. so you don't have to make the transition from what you think bread's supposed to taste like to what it actually tastes like, because it tastes fine. It's just different.
It's the texture's a little odd on it, and it has, even though it's quote unquote white bread, it has a kind of a wheat bread taste, I guess, which I'm fine with. I like wheat, I like white. It doesn't really matter. But the texture is a little weird. So it doesn't taste like wet cardboard. So, which was my concern of, you've got to stop eating gluten if you want to have your stomach like you again. and I was a little worried that I was going to be eating like all meat and veggies. So, but it's working out slowly. So,
all right. Well, with that, we're not going to do something gluten tolerant, I guess, for this recipe.
No, not this time. So,
all right. So, what do we got?
Okay. So for this time, because we're rolling up on Mardi Gras, which is March 4th, and Shrove Tuesday, which is popular in the UK, Ireland, etc. Shrove is also known as Pancake Day. So in the US, it's Fat Tuesday or Mardi Gras. So today we're doing banana bread pancakes, because what's better than a pancake but a banana bread flavored pancake? So for this recipe, you need some all-purpose flour, kosher salt, baking powder, baking soda, a ripe banana, and when I say ripe banana, I mean ripe, like the skin is starting to turn black. A large egg, white sugar, milk, vanilla extract, butter, chopped walnuts, and some more butter as needed. That's to butter your pancakes with. So, and the rest of the instructions and the amounts will be in the show notes. And then for my mixed drink corner, sticking on the Mardi Gras aspect, I picked the Brandy Crusta, which is a cocktail that's one of the oldest ones on record in New Orleans, and is a direct forebearer of the popular sidecar. It was invented in the 1850s by Joseph Santini, an Italian bartender plying his trade in the New Orleans area. And for that, you need brandy, orange curacao, maraschino liqueur, lemon juice, simple syrup, and Angostura bitters. And if you want to garnish your glass, you need a lemon twist and a sugared rim. So, and again, the amounts and the directions will be in the show notes.
All right, very good.
And you can actually make this since we have maraschino liqueur now.
And we have brandy that we need to use.
That's true.
We need to pour some brandy out of a dragon's ass and then make this. So
that sounds
this is
horrible.
I know that's a weird sentence, but it's actually true. We showed a picture somewhere in Hedonism Chat, I think, of the bottle of brandy we bought that's in a dragon-shaped bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the stopper, quote unquote, is his butthole, basically.
Is anatomically near the posterior of the beast.
It will eventually turn itself, I think, into Russ's Whiskey Infinity bottle. Yes. I think that was the plan for it. So
I believe it will happen once the brandy is gone. Yep.
It's a cool bottle. So.
It is a cool bottle. It's a ridiculously expensive bottle, but whatever.
Yeah, well, you only live once.
We went up to St. Louis last week, and in so doing, stopped at a one of those mega convenience stores that are popping up. Some people might be familiar with Buc-ee's or Wawa or any of those, but this one is called Wally's. I believe there's several of them, but this one is outside of St. Louis. And they have a fairly decent whiskey selection up there. And I was looking at their stuff, and they had some interesting, what I would call bottom shelf choices. So I picked up a bottle of Jack Daniel's Bonded, which I don't think I'd actually ever seen before, and a bottle of Beardstown Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I had never heard of Beardstown before, so I did some research. It's actually comes out of Bardstown. And the reason it comes out of Bardstown is because back in the day, I think it was around 1780 or so, Bardstown was often referred to as Beardstown, even though it was settled by two brothers named Bard. So it's Beardstown, but it's from Bardstown. And if you do a little bit of looking and investigation and deep diving, you find out using a circuitous route that it's actually made by Sazerac. And that should be a name that people are familiar with, because Sazerac actually makes Buffalo Trace and Sazerac, of course, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So this actually comes out of their distillery. It's a Kentucky Straight Bourbon. It doesn't have an age statement. If it's aged between 2 and 4 years, it must contain an age statement. So we're going to assume, because it's made by Sazerac and does not have an age statement, that it's aged at least 4 years. It's certainly not younger than 2. So it definitely has to be more than 4. And I picked it up hoping it might be a nice alternative for making cocktails or as a cheap sipper, from the bottom shelf. And so let's find out if it is. The mash bill on it is undisclosed. This is one of those ones where, it's kind of like Jim Beam and stuff that's on the shelf. They don't tell you what it's made of, what grains. You just assume there's some corn and barley and, probably a little rye in there and just go on your merry way. So we don't know what grains are actually in it. We know it's at least 51% corn because it's a Kentucky straight bourbon. It's bottled at 90 proof, which is kind of nice for a bottom shelf whiskey. Most of them are put out at 80, which is the legal minimum. So to see that it's actually put out at a higher proof is kind of cool. It's a light amber color. It's not super, super aged or anything like that, so it's not particularly dark, but it doesn't look bad on the shelf. Probably a little bit of caramel coloring in there. The nose on it's not bad. One thing that pervaded my experience of all of this Beardstown is honey. Honey seemed to be sort of everywhere in it for me. On the nose, there was honey, toasted oak, and then I put clover honey. So let's just put clover honey. We don't have to reiterate honey. We know it's honey. Then some cinnamon and vanilla. So nothing super exciting, but they go pretty well together. So not bad. The taste on it's pretty similar. A little bit of vanilla, some honey, slightly grassy, which I attribute to things being just sort of like the distilled grains just coming through because the barrel hasn't had enough time to remove that note, and some barrel spice. The finish on it is a medium length. It's a little bit drying. Definitely does not coat your mouth or anything like that. And you get hints of oak, baking spice, and of course honey. So it's not bad. It is cheap. It's $25 for a fifth. And it's definitely something you would find on the bottom shelf. But it is actually good enough that I could see myself just picking it up on a given day and drinking it straight. But it would certainly make a good cocktail. I think it would make a Manhattan or an old fashioned just fine. And, for $25, it's not bad at all. I've tasted much worse for a lot more money. So we're going to give this a rating of 83. And if you're looking for something cheap with a slightly higher proof to it to give your cocktails a bit of a kick and maybe withstand that ice cube you throw into it, Beardstown might be the way to go. And it certainly seems like it's available wherever. So there you go. Beardstown, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And do you have anything, Bill?
Nope, I've just been drinking nasty IPAs all day, so yeah, nothing new to report from here, unfortunately.
You and those damned IPAs. Yep. Darren says
FYI.
Jim made from what we scraped off the barn floor. Okay.
Nice.
Classy.
Wally's is only in Fenton, Missouri, and Pontiac, Illinois.
Okay, so yeah, if you're
maybe they're wanting to become a Buc-ee's eventually.
Yeah, good luck. There's already a Buc-ee's.
Well, I'm saying be as big as Buc-ee's.
Yeah, which I'm saying has already happened, so it's not going to.
Yeah.
I think Wally's is a little late to that game.
Yeah. Well, when they grow up, they want to be a Buc-ee's. So there you go.
One day we're going to drive to St. Louis and Wally's is going to be a Buc-ee's.
Well, that wouldn't shock me. So.
All right. Well, we do have a bit of feedback tonight, so let's let Bill read it. Why not?
This is a comment on episode 571 from Ross, KD0VHN. And this is about the OBS thing. He says there's an acronym conflict between Open Broadcaster Software and SUSE's Open Build Service. It's annoying because you have to pay attention to context, something AI still don't manage very well. The AI model was probably trained on material that doesn't include Open Broadcaster. In regards to Linux on the iMac with the 32-bit EFI image, Debian 12.x, or Bookworm, has a i386 installation media, but I believe upcoming version 13, Trixie, will not support i386. At least there's currently no installation image for testing on that architecture. For long-term paths forward for older 32-bit systems Linux, it's probably not a good choice at this point, even though some distributions or some distros do have some years left in support life cycles. Many distros and software projects are phasing out legacy x86 support to lighten their support burden. Instead, people may want to look at NetBSD or OpenBSD, not FreeBSD, because they are also phasing out 32-bit x86 legacy support. However, it would be a good idea to check software compatibility support for their chosen BSD because not all ham radio projects support BSDs. If the software isn't already in their package repositories or equivalent, it isn't available. Porting might be necessary, which may or may not be as easy as running, the ./configure and make it, especially when it comes to audio subsystems API support. So yeah, lots of details there from Ross. So somebody listened very closely to what we were saying. Very good advice.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Ross, for sending in that feedback. We appreciate it. And look, there's somebody. Buckies are litigious. Yeah, we've heard about that. So sorry, jumping back to the peanut gallery. But yeah, thanks, Ross, for the feedback. Really appreciate it, and appreciate the fact that you're listening so closely to the show and giving out excellent information. We always appreciate that. And finally, we have please help support the show. We've been mentioning on the last few shows to please help us out financially if you absolutely can. If you can't, we totally understand. Just continue to listen. We really appreciate that as well. But you can sign up for ostensibly less than $2 a month via Patreon, PayPal, by buying some merch. And you can also help us out by sending us some topics for our random picker wheel, because we always need more, because they will drain off eventually. But if you have anything you'd like to hear us expound about, please send it to us at info@lhspodcast.info. And of course, lhspodcast.info is where you can find the website and all the information for subscribing, listening to episodes, announcements about where we're going to be and what we're doing and all that kind of stuff. And just go ahead and check it out. It's a clearinghouse for everything Linux in the Ham Shack. And with that, let's go ahead and get down to our new subscribers, supporters, and live participants, and we'll let Cheryl go through the list. It's actually kind of a short one this time around.
Yeah, it is a very short one this time. So for our subscribers and Patreons, we have David, which is W4DPE. There were no free Patreons, nobody on Facebook, nobody on Twitter, no Instagram. On Mastodon, there was @JessDale. Nobody on Blue Sky, nobody on the mailing list. For Discord, we had Jack_Ripken and Magus Zeal. On YouTube, we had KW4G and Mark Trebian. On live chat, we had Steve KJ5T. Overreading stuff. Mike K6GTE and Darren VK6EK.
Yeah, very good. So that actually brings us down to the end of the program tonight. We thank everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate your listenership, and we wouldn't be here doing this if it weren't for all of you. So thanks again. We hope you have a great week, and we'll tune in to the next episode, which will be a deep dive, and we'll have an in-depth look at some topic, which will be coming up in a few days from now. And in the meantime, we'll let you go ahead and get back to whatever it is you were doing. Have a great week, and we hope you're around for the next one. So with that, this is the end of Linux in the Ham Shack episode number 572, the 126th edition of The Weekender. And I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.